Welcome to Geek Force, the show where pop culture rules all. I'm your host, Kat. With me today is the number one squad in the world, the G Squad with Marlin,
Craig, the world.
Marlin, Raymond, and Eming. Hi, you guys. How are you feeling today?
I'm gonna need a neck brace from shaking.
Neck brace? That's a lot.
Raymond, can I just say today is your birthday, so listeners, if you're a big fan of Ray, like we are here, it's his birthday.
Raymond is 50 years young out in these streets. Hey.
Right.
I know, not a day over 72.
And you look fabulous, of course.
Thank you.
So how was everyone's weekend?
It was. I feel like weekend is a term that no longer applies. During
I don't know what happened this weekend. I don't really remember.
Days were those.
Well, okay, so I mean, if you do celebrate 4th of July, something like that happened over the weekend. So I'm sure you've heard fireworks. There was barbecue.
Oh my God.
Oh, you know what? Really
it was a fucking war zone.
I love that people are out and celebrating, but at a certain point, it's got to be a stopping time.
Seriously?
I was awoken at 3 a.m.
Oh, shit.
No.
to what sounded literally like Bombs Over Baghdad, not the Outkast song. Literally to like 5 consecutive back-to-back, just like boom explosions, and which followed with like, of course, every single car on San Pablo University just like blaring because of this entire like house rocking noise took off. My cats are freaking out, fully like don't know what's going on.
Babies.
A loud explosion happened. I'm wide awake thinking, is someone in the house? But is someone kicking the door? Like, what's going on? And I was just seething with rage. And it just like was another hour of like smaller ones coming up after that. So fireworks I hate them right now. I hate them.
Yeah, they need to stop. I agree. Well, I'm sorry that happened to you guys. But over the weekend, there was 2 virtual anime conventions that I attended, Funimation and Aniplex. I feel like they were connected, but they were not connected. I mostly watched for updates of anime this year, specifically the summer, because it's still, summer around here. For me, it was exciting to see like a lot of more animes coming to the big screen, to theaters. So like Demon Slayer's Infinity Train is coming to theaters. I think they are partnering with Aniplex and some other production company, and they're trying to get it on more screens, which makes me happy because this is a very big is a very important arc in the story, and instead of doing a season, they're doing a movie. That's how you know they're serious. So to see the footage and hearing like it's coming soon, I was excited. Fire Force season 2 started over the weekend, so if you're a big fan of Fire Force, that came the first episode of season 2 dropped on Saturday. If you're a fan of Dr. Stone, season 2 is coming out soon. Another big story arc of the Stone Wars is featuring in the season 2.
That show's wild.
No. I mean, to me, I look at Dr. Stone as the Bill Nye the Science Guy show for today's kids, because I learned some stuff.
That's accurate as hell, though. If Bill Nye the Science Guy was an anime character, it'd be this guy.
It would be this guy. It would be this high school guy. He was like, and you need this and this, and you make soap. And I was like, wait, you can make soap out of kelp? What? It's stuff like that. So I was excited to see that. There's other anime news. I kind of posted it on our social media if you guys follow us. It was a really refresher to see that, because I've been more into the dramas. And then on top of that, I did get into a new drama. I got into Brand New Animal on Netflix. Highly recommend this anime. Marlin shaking his head. All I have to say is, if you like Beastars, and if you don't care about furry anime, don't listen to Marlin. If you like your furry anime, it's perfectly fine. You'll like the
That's
show.
That's a whole subsection of anime, isn't it? Furry anime.
I mean, it's not like
it's getting a boost.
That's crazy.
It's not the sexual part. It's just you just like watching drama with animals.
Not I like the sexual part. I like that you
I had to look that up, Amy. I had to look that up because people were throwing the F word around like it was everything. And I was like, I thought that meant, no, actually, it just means if you just like the animals in anime. I was like, oh, I do. Does that make me one? I don't care. I like it. So brand new animal on Netflix. I highly recommend.
Kat saying this as she's wearing cat ears.
And we have the video to show this too, which is great.
Kat's like getting right into her furrydom, like starts with the ears.
She's like, I'm on the track.
She's gonna have a tail.
Don't let them feed this narrative that bestiality and furrydom is the same thing.
Wait, whoa. That would be on an episode of Margin Call. Right here.
Very different thing.
You can ask Russell later if you want.
Where did it come from? Wow. So yeah, I had a very anime-filled weekend. I'm excited for some new shows, some new stuff. That was my weekend, Marlin. So today is special. We're going to start Marlin's Corner early today.
Yeah.
Marlin's Corner. You gonna do
Marlin's Corner on the Raymond tilt. So I like to just on the Raymond tilt. There we go. So starting off, I just want to say to the nerd community, geek community, however you identify within this amazing world of video games, comic books, movies, TV shows, whatever, that I think it's really important to just specify that there's a lot of hate going on out there for a lot of different people. There's also a lot of damage being dealt out there. This community definitely is one that is supposed to be inclusive of folks who feel like, alienated from other things and finding a space where they can feel loved and appreciated by it. I definitely know that within this podcast group, we've been in places where we've definitely felt the love and the appreciation within our groups and our people. But we also have definitely felt, outcasts within an outcast group, which is not great. And I think it's important that we remember that, we're all here to support one another and support the craft that is video games, the craft that is anime, TV shows, just to make sure we support each other and also protecting each other. So that's definitely something I want to lead off with. Anyway, I want to just go right into this whole Twitch thing that's going on. A lot of folks getting banned and sent away.
Tell us more.
Yeah. Banned and sent away is good.
To the Shadow Realm, right? The Shadow Realm, right?
Banished to the Shadow Realm.
Hey, yes.
No, it's been wild. I'm trying to figure out what's the guy's name that I was. God, it's like Mr. Ridiculousness or
Dr. Disrespect.
Dr. Disrespect. I definitely think we were talking about it a little bit last week because it kind of happened out of nowhere. And there's like no other words said about it. Well, then there were other folks that started disappearing too. And like also like Twitch is doing a great job in terms of like not fully saying what's going on or what's happening. If some of them, like you're saying, there's some misconduct on their end. There's also been a lot of folks be like, hey, I was told that this whole thing's being shut down. I don't have a statement at this time. And they're just like walking away and disappearing to the Shadow Realm. So I'm trying to figure out like, at what point is Twitch going to release like, hey, here's what happened? Or they're going to be like, hey, listen, there is no war in Ba Sing Se, So
they can't truly think they can Jedi mind trick us on this one. Like,
right.
Like it has.
They can try.
See, we say this, but I'm also going to be like, hey, we hear that things are going on, but oh my God, is that a new live stream of the Last of Us Part 2 DLC coming out? And they were all like, wait, what?
What? Right.
Follow the show.
Exactly. So I'm going to still, be trying to figure out what's going on. Because I've been like in a deep dark hole of like, what's happening to Twitch? Like I got to figure out what are the connecting threads? I know there's some misconduct going on.
So
I
have a comment there. I have a comment there because there's a part of that I agree with, like that feeling of like you got to figure out what's going on, right? Like what's happening, yada yada yada. And I want to start encouraging more people to not have that urge to do that because we aren't the jury in a lot of these situations. And because a lot of the stuff starts popping up publicly, we feel like we are because we get like one side of it publicly, and then we're like, but what about the other side? Like, this is the juicy Montel Williams Maury episode. Like,
Yep.
what's happening out here? Like, I want to be a part of this, and like, but it's none of our business. Like, they just put it out there in public because they were threatening other stuff. So like, well, now it's in the public, so now everybody knows. So now you have to address it. Like,
Yes.
and so because yeah, the Smash community has been having a hard week too. I've been dealing with a lot of it on like a just on the flip side of like being one of the leadership in this area and like having to deal with community members doing stuff and blocking people on Facebook pages and just all sorts of stuff that we've been doing on that side to like try and make the community a safer place. And I got more stuff with that the rest of this week and probably for another month or two. But the lucky thing is we're all in quarantine, so like there are no live events going on. So a lot of this we can take time to like make the right decisions and make sure both sides of the story get heard properly and like really dig into this because like that's what needs to happen. And if it needs to go to police, it needs to go to police. Like some of these stories like they're past the statute of limitation, I think. And so it's just like, I wish you all had come out with these things sooner so that something could still happen. There's stories of, yeah, go ahead.
So I'm confused. So I'm not I don't know a lot about this world you live in. Can you kind of explain to me what it is and
the short version
what's been happening exactly?
The short version specifically in the Smash and fighting game community over the past week has just been like a lot of allegations of both predatory behavior from mostly men. There's been a couple of women stories of predatory behavior. And a large chunk of those, because the Smash community is this weird, like average age of 19, like there's older kids playing while there's younger adults playing. And there's some weird like stuff that has happened between like 21 and 16-year-olds and 24 and 14, and like there's a lot of these stories coming out too. Yeah, you're making the face, and it's like that's been all week. So people I've known for a chunk of time have been coming out and being some of these things, not all of it, but like it's been a world shatter kind of week. So yes, but the thing that I'm noticing the most now is everyone's inclination to want to hear the rest of the story when it's none of our business, and to like just let the people who are in charge of these things decide if they need to be around these events anymore, and if they do, then they're going to say something. If they don't, they're going to ban them from these events. And no one's trying to say it's guilty before proven innocent. That's like no one's trying to do that. No one's trying to like. So it's a lot of mess with that is happening. Dr. Disrespect, I'm really curious what happened, but like I know there's a chance I'll never hear about it, and if I don't, it sounds like Twitch might have made the right call. Probably if they Twitch is a private company about money. If they kicked out one of their highest money makers, I'm sure they checked on both sides of that story before they got rid of him. So so whatever they chose, we should probably just let it go.
Yeah, and then and some more other video game news. Raymond and I talked about Last of Us 2 for like 2 episodes now. And we definitely, shared 3 episodes.
This is the third one. It's a trilogy.
Hey, Naughty Dog Legacy.
So we talked about Last of Us like a few times now. We also discussed like, our differences in opinions of like how we rate the game, which were, great conversations. But on the other opposite end of that, there have been a lot of folks who've been really just very angry about the game. Beyond just like, trying to get the game a 0 score, beyond just sharing the memes. Recently, Neil Druckmann and Laura Bailey shared on Twitter that Laura Bailey specifically have been getting death threats via Twitter from people who've played the games that have been so upset about her portrayal of Abby that they've been saying that they've like going to find her, they're going to kill her. And it's just been this real nasty. And like she sent a screenshot of like just like 5, and she said, this is just a little bit of it. And she's like, of course, like blurred. And like what I thought was crazy is she took the time to not only share the screen, but she also blurred out any spoilers for the game.
Wow.
Which I'm like, you didn't have to do that. I mean,
That's
this is
sweet of
important,
her.
but I'm like, you're being a sweetheart. Like she like fully like let what they said be shown, but also just like blacked out any spoilers. But like there's just a litany of these things. Also a bunch of like anti-Semitic responses about one of the characters in the game. There's a Jewish character. There's a bunch of anti-Semitic comments. There's a bunch of transphobic comments. So Neil Druckmann came out and said, listen, we at Naughty Dog, like we know this game had like a very controversial ending, had a controversial plot and everything, but we did not expect it to be this bad within like our community that was excited for this game. We want to let you know right now that we condemn all these things. These are not okay. You can't say that. You can't do that. It's not acceptable. And it's really disheartening to see it because, mind you, these people are voice actors.
Right.
They're not the actual character. And I think it's another example of when like people take a property way too far and they fully think that the person who is voicing or portraying is fully that character and just behave outside of the realm of normalcy and outside of the realm of like sanity. And so it's just been wild going through like the tweets and the DMs. And at a certain point I was like, what is wrong with people? Like, I don't understand. Like, even when me and Kat played Fallout 76, I never thought to myself, I'm going to fully email the person who designed this game and tell them, you made a bad game. I have to end your life now. Like, I don't think I've ever jumped to that conclusion for any game I play.
That makes me happy, Marlin. Angry. I'm glad to know that.
And I feel like,
it warms my soul.
Right? And I feel like for me, maybe it's just like, maybe we're just cut from a different cloth, but I just can't ever get behind someone fully coming to the rational expectation of like, my anger justifies the act of finding someone who is in no way responsible for how I perceive this game, but making them uncomfortable, threatening them, and potentially trying to harm them to feel better about something that is outside of their control. So,
yeah, just threatening them with harm, period, is bad enough. Like,
yeah,
why? How does that make you feel any better? That's what a pillow is for. Go write a journal entry. Go talk to a therapist.
Right, and it makes me wonder: are these people like burning like Last of Us 2 merchandise? Because I feel like they're in the same pool of those people. So I'm like, you're wasting your money to buy stuff, and then you're burning it as a message of saying I don't like it.
I'm sure there's a couple broken Blu-rays lying around.
Right, and they take a picture and be like, I am frustrated.
I cut it.
And the fact that, again, this kind of like
Nike debacle all over again.
Right. And I feel like with all of that's going on, you know, with everything from the pandemic to, you know, the whole Black Lives Matter movement to us being home, you know, not without a job. Like, I understand there's anger there, but then now, you know, video games have been like the go-to thing during this time. And instead of growing as a person, you know, learning how to be better so that when we go back to society, you're a better person. You're going to take the time to tweet and email the creator and voice actors of this game and threaten them with death because you didn't like it. If everyone would have done that, we wouldn't have art, period.
True.
Like, you need to just, I don't understand the extent and the energy and time and the money to go that far. If you don't like it, don't play it. I don't like this game. Play another game. I don't understand why it has to be, I have to change this whole thing and I'm just going to use the power of death. Again,
because they feel entitled.
Using the power of death as a way to get people to do things. But that's like a common thing I'm seeing a lot recently, politically and non-politically. And I'm like, this needs to stop. Like, you just need to understand there are things you're not going to like and you need to deal with it. And the fact that this is just a video game, you don't even have to like it. And you are, first of all, you know, we talked about before this game came out, the rumors of why people didn't like it. Then you two played it. Then you kind of were like, I still understand why people don't like it. Like I see it
I have a different
technically.
opinion this week than I had last week. Like
Okay.
I was just, like, it's still evolving. Like
Okay.
There's so many layers to
Evolving.
this game. It's layers.
But see, you can say that, but to me that makes it that shows to me that this is a very good game. It has layers where each week you're feeling a different type of thing. That's a good ass game. It might not be like how Game of Thrones. I love Game of Thrones forever. That last season was horrible, but I still talk about it because it's still a great show. It's still a great show.
It's not a good show.
It's still a great show, Raymond.
It's really not.
It's still a great show.
It has a couple good seasons. That's about it.
It was the experience.
Did we actually have a Game of Thrones episode?
No.
We talked about it a little
Wow,
we talked about it
never
a little
did?
bit. Because when the show started, Game of Thrones, because Game of Thrones kind of ended when we started.
It was already over.
But you, okay.
Yeah.
We will. Amy, I promise.
I will say that, like, Neil Druckmann definitely did, release a very interesting tweet saying that, and it wasn't, on one hand, he did condemn it, but on the other hand, he said, I wish that everyone who, is making these comments, I wish that they go see a therapist and that they get the help they need and that we pray for them. Because, like, he's also like, these people they're making these deranged comments because something is wrong with them. If they're having to go out of their way to find this person, follow them on Twitter or Instagram, and then write these things. It's like, you don't have the mental capabilities to know this is not something to do, so you need to see and speak to someone about it.
Right. Period.
Or some way of help.
Right.
just get help.
Maybe you don't need to play video games. Just play Tetris or something. I don't know. Like, stop. We want to play games, and I'm not gonna let your hatred like force somebody to be like, well, we can't release this now because to me. No, that's not fair. You guys are ruining the whole experience for us. It's not my fault that you're whatever. But at the same time, if you take the time to kind of just realize what you're doing, I would feel better in a way, because I feel like for the fans, like you guys, even whether if you like it or not, it's not fair to like see this as a response. Like, you too played the game and you too did not do the same thing. And I just really hope this hasn't hindered any future developments from them themselves. Like, I feel like they're smart enough that they are going to ignore it, but at the same time, I don't know. I really, because I've seen in the past where people hated something so much that they were like, we're not going to do it. And then as the fans that were, we're common sense, we don't get it. And it's like, thanks bullies. Thanks y'all. So I hope they pull through. Hi Russell. Hey, so we had just a drop in right now. Russell has joined us in our Russell has dropped in our conversation. Welcome. If you guys do not know Russell, he is the host of Margin Call, our big sister podcast from a ways.
True. So happy to be here. Sorry to interrupt. Just hopping in, just coming late to the party. Ignore me. I'll go get a drink, listen in and catch up.
Yeah, we're just talking about Last of Us and how some toxic fans have just taken their hate of the game a little too far.
There's a theory that is living around. I actually need to send you this video, Marlin. But there's the rest of what I'm about to say all comes down to what was Naughty Dog's intention with this game, because we don't know. We can listen to what Neil Druckmann has said and look at the game and analyze it as much as we can, but sometimes it's hard to tell what storytellers are intending with their story. But this game all looks like their intention here was to present the players with an emotional challenge. There's an emotional level in this game that if you can't pass through that emotional step, then this game is just a failure for you. We've talked about what it is. Like, we all kind of know what that emotional level is in this game based on the spoilers and everything that you've
letting go.
Like, and so, like, can you? And so the people, there's one of the videos I was watching was showing how, like, this game, one story is quintessentially like a story of like someone doing everything like for themselves. Like they are looking out for themselves. All of their motives and motivations are purely selfish for the most part. Yeah, it's a little bit of justice in there because of what their revenge story is about, but like it's mostly them trying to do this thing because they feel like they need to get revenge. While the other story is all about the character learning how to take care of others, putting herself second, putting others first. And so you have this weird balance of like when the two stories merge again, you have this weird balance of like, which way the others, the self, like, do I side with this person? Do I side with that person? And, like, how do I like? And that's the emotional challenge of this game, or a little bit. And I'm just like, yeah, that sounds like that's what they were going for here. Whether or not they executed that to the maximum caliber that they were
That's
trying
the
to,
argument. Yeah.
there's an argument there. But
Okay.
but I think they did a good job of trying to put, instead of this game being about easy, normal, hard, brutal, it is, can you get through this emotional challenge? Like everyone comes at it their own way.
Yeah.
Everyone has different reactions to it, and it shows in the reviews completely.
So
The
Raymond,
last one.
whose side were you on then? Abby's or
I don't think I was on a side, but
Ellie's?
I could empathize with both. Like that was the point of
Yeah.
the game. Is like, can you empathize with both? I think. Can you see where they're both coming from, or do you just get stuck siding with someone, basically?
Yeah.
So
I think like the first time like we even talked about it, I definitely think we were in like, there were definitely stages of understanding what had happened. And your first stage is like, I didn't like what this had happened. And your second stage is like, okay, I can see why this happened and why it affects. Then third stage is like, okay, I can see why I felt more on this one side and didn't like this side. And I feel like as you kind of like fully start like to take more like apart and examine it, you start to see, oh, there's a whole bigger picture here. And I think a lot of folks were stuck in the first stage of like, I didn't like this, so I'm not gonna. So this is what I'm mad at, and didn't fully like
These people
dissect
failed
all
the
these
challenge.
feelings. Oh yeah, basically, what's that?
You lose.
If this was the Arrowverse, you failed this city.
Yeah. Yeah, they failed. This game didn't work for them. I hope they can go back and understand it and like let go.
Appreciate it.
Like,
Let
that's the
go.
entire point of the game is, can you let go?
This
It's incredible that they built a game that's the point. Like you go through this experience of feeling such hatred for someone for doing something to someone you had such a connection to, and they pull you through all the ways that people could react and like have a fallout, especially the mental distress of all of that. And that's what's cool about this game. Again, we can argue about the full execution at the end of it, but like they succeeded in a lot of that, which shouldn't be taken away from them.
And plus, it's in a apocalyptic world where common sense is being rational, most like as rational as possible. I'm thinking in terms of like Walking Dead. How many people have killed other people that person felt an emotional attachment to, but they kind of had to put that aside because for the greater good, we had to work together or we're all gonna die. And so again, as a player, you have your thoughts or whatever of the world, but you have to realize, The Last of Us Part 2, you're more into the future of this world more than the last game. And of course, it's the sequel. You're going to make harder decisions. Ellie's older. You are, as she was a child in the first one. I feel like for her, at least from my perspective, when you have a character that goes from a child to almost an adult, you're going to see some real stuff. So now you're dealing with real stuff with her and another character, and you're like, well, I'm kind of on her side because of the first game, but now she's making stuff I don't like. And you're going to have to make stuff like decisions of not on what you would do personally, but what would you do personally in this position in this world.
Yeah, and that's...
People have that mental capacity to kind of catch up. They get caught in their feelings and they're just like, I just don't want to think about it. I don't like this game.
And I just don't like it. Yeah, but this is too much negativity. Like
right. Too much negativity.
It brings the question, like, what are they doing with this HBO show? Because
That
they
was my other question.
they have an HBO show they're making. It's going to be based in the same universe. Some people are saying it's just going to be an adaptation of the games, more or less. And if that's true, the first season or two, if it takes 2 seasons to get through the first game or something, I can't see it taking. If it takes 1 season to get through a game, that's gonna be strange. But maybe that's fine. I don't know. Anyway, point being, when they get to this story, they have a chance to do it differently than how they did it before. But I also don't think it is gonna. I think that'll have a different impact on people, because the way you play through this game and you see it through the eyes of the buttons and the interactions and how just like the tone of everything else, I don't think you're gonna get it the same way just watching an actor or actress go through these scenes in a movie. Like, it's just not going to be the same.
It's not.
So we'll see. I'm curious.
I'm hella curious, especially after the fallout of this game, knowing that they're making the show. Because somebody had posted the article of saying, well, with all the hate, don't forget they're making this a TV show. So, and the people who are part of the show, I mean, they are going to have, I think, Neil a part of it. So it's going to have that same, emotional tug strings.
Same music.
Right. So
music's a big thing.
I don't know, how are those same players gonna I don't know if they're gonna watch, but how they're gonna feel with watching, knowing
they will. We know they will. They'll all tune in.
No, they're gonna be like, I hate the actors.
Just so they can hate watch it. Oh yeah,
hey,
they'll tune in.
Make it popular. I'm not gonna, any press is good press. So thanks.
That's what Naughty Dog is saying right now too. We still broke all the records on sales. Doesn't matter how you feel about our game. We got
Nah.
Thanks. Just thanks.
And that has been Marlin's Corner on the Raymond Tilt.
On the Raymond.
I just still don't understand.
Did you just coin that?
Like, you define that? The Raymond.
Raymond is
either Raymond's rant or Raymond's tilt. Which do you prefer?
It's Marlin's Corner on the Raymond Tilt.
So I'm like underneath the house.
Exactly.
That's
so
uncomfortable.
Basically, imagine Marlin's Corner being like a very flat surface in the corner, but Raymond's underneath it, and he's like tilting.
Plateau.
Yeah. So like if I
under the house.
If I try to roll a rolly chair over there, it's gonna roll back down because I'm under the house. Yeah, no, I get
Happy birthday, Raymond, under a house.
Yeah, apparently.
Happy birthday.
Sorry, I won't do it again.
Oh gosh.
It's your birthday though.
Raymond loves it.
Oh boy.
You said Raymond loves
Russell,
it.
how are you doing?
Oh, he swings it out. He swings out, Russell.
I came at just the right time. I love this analogy. I love the tilt. And I'm also happy to get a chance to say happy birthday. I had no idea. Nobody told me that wasn't in the email. Happy birthday.
I found this morning.
It was a secret.
Facebook.
It's just a birthday. It's just a birthday.
It means his, but it's your birthday.
That's Raymond.
Right.
Raymond is special.
This is one time a year you get to say that.
That is my birthday.
No, yes, that's your birthday.
Oh, I thought you said the one time a year he gets to say he's special.
No.
That would be a good one.
I'm not that
fired
limited.
in the room. That's cat's tilt.
Yeah, I'll keep
that's on it.
Cat's world.
I'll keep both of those things to myself.
Cat's soapbox.
No, I'm turning it to world because why not?
Okay.
But no, we're happy that Russell's here today because our main big topic today is Hamilton.
Yeah.
So, in case you listeners have not known yet, Disney Plus finally dropped the Hamilton performance that was performed in 2016, I believe.
Yes.
And so people are calling it the film. I was like, it's not really a film, but okay,
but it kind of is. There's cinematography.
Yeah, and the editing was on point. So I will say it is a film. So they dropped Hamilton the film on Disney Plus on July 3rd in honor of our Independence Day, I suppose. And a lot of people, had a lot to say about it. For me, I have never seen it in theaters. I've never seen it on stage, but
in the theater. I think that's what you say. You've never seen it in the theater.
And then yeah, I was trying to think of it like that. But I've listened to this album for like 4 years. 4 years straight, just knowing all the songs, imagining the original cast, facial expressions, blah, blah, blah. So when I finally watched the film, I was not prepared because they showed things that I was not privy to at all. They had a little, like even things with King George. I didn't know, like for the second half, he just literally sat on the side and was watching, like, y'all failing kind of thing. I was like, I had no idea. It was so
Super
adorable.
petty.
Right. And then I didn't know that at the final end, Eliza had this super huge gasp moment when it was like she broke the fourth wall and she was like returning to her loved ones on the other side. Like that was wow. Like, I don't know if, do they show that on stage, you guys?
She
you
gasped, but
you can hear the
it
gasp,
wasn't that big. I remember it being smaller.
It might be something that
Going in
that
SF,
over
it was
time
smaller.
they like took out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think I had the gaps on my end, but I definitely agree with you. I feel like I've seen it, but even like with the seats I got, it's very hard to see all the facial expressions and all the little ticks and the things, and I feel like it's just a touch more real to like have a camera all up in Aaron
like
Burr's face as he's like reacting to something on stage, and even with King George, his facial expressions and
his
like
spit.
also his spit was a lot. Also, like you're aware of like that there are very consistent roles. Like the woman that plays the bullet is throughout the play,
right,
talking to major players in the play multiple times. But if you're sitting far away, you just see a woman like, oh, this woman is doing a thing. You don't really focus on her face, but now that you can see the face, you see, oh, she has a very pivotal role as the bullet throughout every single scene. There's a bullet being shot. She's the woman in this scene. So, oh, she's living this life of like she's gonna hit someone. She's gonna kill someone at some point. And also the whole thing of like the fact that his son was flirting with death and then dies later was just it makes so much
that blew my mind. I was like, seeing these little things, my mind was like, oh, this is way more than I expected. And then reading up on things that I still didn't see, it made this whole experience way deeper than it was supposed to. I will say for the first half of the play, I did turn into a singer. I could not stop singing. I was like, hey,
you're allowed.
The whole time. But then the second half, I was a bawling mess. I was just crying. Like, Philippa Sue, like, I knew Liza, she made me cry when I heard her songs, but like seeing her performance and just, I was crying. I could not stop crying all the way up until the show ended, and then I cried again when the credits rolled because I was like, "This is a good movie! Oh my god, it was such a good movie!" But it was like just little things that, as a good writer, he did in the beginning where you notice people's little personalities or whatever, even in the song. That's why the first few songs are the main songs, because they are referred mainly on the other side of the show a lot because it represents something. But seeing that, for me, it was just the acting, the close-ups on Burr and everybody. It just took it to a whole nother level where, oh, so now I'm seeing and understanding. Wow, because like for me, I knew Alexander was arrogant, but then like seeing like his facial and body movement, I was like, you are wild. You need to control yourself. He was just and all that. I'm like, dude, you need to slow down and wait. Like Bird was not lying when he told him he needed to just talk less smart. He was not lying. He needed to just stop. But he was all over the place. So I guess I'm asking, like, what are you guys' thoughts, knowing that I mean, Russell, I don't know about you, but I did not see it on stage. So comparing to, I get kind of like Marlin kind of just got into, but like seeing it on stage and then seeing it on here, what are your thoughts? Compare, contrast.
I'm very interested in that aspect, especially even just in this conversation of the five of us. Because with this coming out on Disney Plus, there are people having like multiple different levels of experiences, right?
Right.
There are the people who saw it in the theater and have been listening to the soundtrack ever since, and now they're seeing it again. There are the people who have been obsessed with it, never able to get a ticket, never actually saw the show, but listening to the music, and like you, Kat, finally seeing the visuals and having things come together in a mind-blowing way. And then you have people like me, who were like, oh yeah, that sounds interesting, but never like listened to the soundtrack and didn't, like I knew what I knew about it as a pop culture phenomenon, but everything was brand new to me. But I am grateful. It was, I think, as someone who knew very, very little about it, a mind-blowing experience for all the reasons that you guys have mentioned. But I also have a lot of thoughts because I'm a person who experiences art in a critical way. I think about storytelling. I'm very serious. I think art is very serious. I love to think, even movies I love, I like to think about like, what's not working here? And that's not how I approached it. I had a very profound emotional experience. I understand why it's a cultural phenomenon, but I had some thoughts. I just don't want to, I don't want to go on the record as a Hamilton hater. I'm not a Hamilton hater.
Uh-oh.
Is it gonna be like another Drake situation?
I'm
That we're
gonna
hear about for the rest of my life.
assume I don't know what you're gonna say, but what's your?
Too late. I already assumed what he's gonna say.
No. I'm not. I had a wonderful experience, right? But my experience is very different from people who have been like super enthusiastic about this from the start, right? It's very easy for me to come into it late and be like, oh, this is the thing that everybody loves. I don't really know that much about, and now I'm watching it. All the things that are great about it, I kind of like, are known, well logged. I would like to talk about that at length, but I also want to talk about Lin-Manuel Miranda a little bit, just in the role of Hamilton. Because I don't know if other people had this experience, but when I was watching this on Disney Plus, I thought, oh my God, what an assemblage of insanely talented people. Like every single person who got on the stage. I love musicals. Like I've always loved musicals. I love going to see musicals in the theater. I love watching them on TV. I like the old stuff. I like the new stuff. There's some stuff I don't like. You know, like Phantom of the Opera's trash. Everybody knows that. Cats is garbage. Everybody knows that. I guess that's a different debate. Sorry, now I'm being controversial. Sorry. Let me strike those from the record. I love musicals. So I was watching how many insane, I mean, my God, Aaron Burr, there's so many people, right? King George, everybody, Angelica, just like the most incredible actors, the most incredible singers, dancing, choreography. This is like the height of performance, right? And then you kind of have Lin-Manuel Miranda. And this is not, I'm not, obviously he's genius. This is like his brainchild, but it kind of reminded me a little bit of like, you know how like Dr. Dre used to always like put himself on songs and then you'd be like, oh man, it's the Dr. Dre verse because Dr. Dre's not a very good rapper. You know what I mean? Like he's the producer. He's the genius behind everything.
I think that makes Hamilton more hip hop. It's what you just said.
Yeah,
That's what I just heard.
It makes it more hip hop because the producer is like, I want to be on this track. You know, and it's like Puffy used to do stuff like that where he would like make a great beat and then everybody would love the song and be like, oh damn, now it's the Puffy verse. Baby. Like, yeah, like this is not good anymore. You know what I mean? And it's a little bit different, right? But, you know, I just felt like, and this is the phrase I'm going to use, like, because I think it's accurate. Not only did he put himself in the musical as a person who I think it's fair to say is like not a particularly good singer, not a particularly good rapper, not a particularly good dancer. Is that fair to say? Is that a controversial thing?
I'll fight you on the rap side, but the other two I won't fight you much on.
And okay. I want to add on to what Raymond's going to say.
I also have something to say after Kat.
Okay. So it was a little bit of a sticking point because I have obviously like an incredible amount of respect for Lin-Manuel Miranda, admiration, genius, right? I saw him in In the Heights when In the Heights was out. Thought that was fantastic. But he really worked in that because he was in his element, right? Like he had this role that was kind of off to the side. He was a guy that didn't have to do much acting, was like a pretty good rapper, and it was his show. And then there were a lot of people who were really, really talented singers who kind of took the forefront. And I just thought, not only did he put himself in the show, he put himself in the lead, in the most crucial role. And I'm watching all these supporting characters, like with the whole conflict and the really fascinating relationship between Hamilton and Burr, to me, is fully compromised by the fact that Odom is just like an outstanding performer. Like, in my opinion, probably the most talented person in the show that I saw. And then he's like... And okay, fine, that's debatable, but like at least one of absolutely the most talented people who are on that stage, right?
Definitely.
And then he's, you know, that relationship to me is so tainted by the fact that he's up against this guy who's kind of like not really suited for that role. Like it was crazy to me to watch that happen. And I don't want to lead with criticism. It was just it's something I had never considered, right? Because all I knew was like Hamilton is great. Lin-Manuel Miranda is a genius. And then I watched it, I was like, wait a minute, he can't act and he can't sing and he cast himself as Hamilton? That's wild. So that's it. Say what you want to. That's my little brief piece.
This one came in firing.
He did.
Not the sky, right?
I'm not being authoritative. I'm saying that was my take upon watching it. I'm fully prepared to be taken down.
Raymond?
Here we go. Raymond.
And go.
The experience I had watching it in San Francisco is that the Hamilton in that play was like really great. He was really fantastic. And in watching the film version this past weekend, um, I realized that I didn't really have a very strong attachment to the Aaron Burr in the San Francisco play because I was just blown away by Leslie Odom, and I couldn't really remember the Aaron Burr that I watched in the S Up version. I was like, yeah, he just must have been bad because like maybe not like not in a mean way, but just like
Right.
I don't remember him like I remembered some of the other performers in that play.
Right.
And so I think I have a like that's my response to this is I guess not everyone is always the right person for the role. We see that a lot, and I think maybe he took it on because it was his child, and he like knew all the lines and like didn't want to like train someone else up on it, or maybe he just felt connected to Hamilton in some other way, or like I'm curious why he did. But I still like him. I don't think he's bad, but I definitely understand why some people are calling him like not good for the role. But
I mean, I don't have any beef with Lin-Manuel Miranda, right? He's a
oh
brilliant
no,
guy.
you're
I
right.
just mean in that role.
Yeah.
I just
And that's
feel
what I'm
like
saying. I still liked him as Hamilton. I still think he does a fine job. Did I like the SF guy more? Yes. I wish I knew his name, but does that mean I would like every other Hamilton that they got over the course of the timeline of this play more than him? It's maybe possible. Like he might be the worst of all of them. Like if we had to rank them, but like I think I think he still does a fine job. There's something to be said that like his singing is not the best in a musical, and maybe that's where the biggest disconnect is for me. But acting wise, I liked him. I felt like maybe it's because I could see the facial expression more, but I really liked him in the I can't think of the Farmer's Refute. The guy singing the decree from King of George, and he's like doing the alternate melody with him. And like I really liked Lin-Manuel in that. I thought he did a really good job with that. Like that was one of the best songs that he did in that was him, but that was him mostly rapping in that song. So we'll see how, or we won't see. People will have their opinion.
I would say that was in support of my argument. You just kind of said it in a nicer way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah, okay.
A little bit. I don't think his acting is bad, but I could agree that his singing isn't very great.
Yeah. And it wouldn't be as noticeable if everybody else wasn't so good, like mind-blowingly good. You know what I mean? This wasn't just like a musical with like, wow, really talented Broadway people. It really felt like an all-star assemblage of like the most talented people I'd ever seen in a musical before, and then Lin-Manuel Miranda.
Maybe that's really what it is.
He made the mistake of casting too many talented people around him. Should have gotten a bunch of more average people and made him look better.
So I guess good for him for making himself the worst person in the play.
Okay, that's kind of how I want to start it off with, but in my opinion, I feel like he did that on purpose. I don't know where I read it, but when it came to, I feel like when he was writing this, you know, we talked about it all. Everything's connected as far as this is Alexander's story, yes, but it's not told by Alexander. It's told by I feel like two of the most powerful people on the screen were Burr and Eliza, and they were like the ones mainly carrying scenes with whenever they were in. They were like on it. That's why I feel like Eliza was chosen for her voice and her acting, and that's why Leslie was chosen for Burr for his voice and acting, because it's them telling the story. I feel like Lin-Manuel chose to be Alexander, and knowing that he not only he's not as powerful with his voice as the others, but even physically he was one of the smaller guys on screen. I think he did it on purpose because, again, Alexander is a young scrappy dude from the islands, you know, trying to catch up to New York society because he wanted to do such great things, even though, again, his talent was writing. What did Lin-Manuel do for this play? He wrote the hell out of this play. So that's where his strength was at. I feel like he's a great rapper and his acting's on point. His singing's not great, and I think he knows that. He was kind of draking it a bit, which is fine to me. You know,
nice verb. I like that verb.
He is Alexander after all. And we give him that credit because, you know, on stage and off stage, both characters are trying to do something big that has never really been done before. And I think that's where all the hype and stardom is at. And I respect that. But I also respect that, yeah, he's not the top dog on stage, especially when it came to scenes with him in Washington. That dude, I feel like he's one of the best dudes in the whole play.
Yeah.
His presence, his voice, I love every
Jackson's
time.
amazing.
Right. Christopher Jackson, he was one of my heart. Him, and it kind of really showed it really showed between him and Lin-Manuel, because it was like he had such a very strong, like, wise presence. And then Lin-Manuel's just, like a little chipmunk, like, da 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 da. I know. No,
Chipmunk
listen,
is
son,
pretty good.
son. And then when he, later on, he's getting a little too confident in his role. He's like, call me son one more time. Call me son one more time.
Yeah.
That's when he was like, okay, you need to chill. And he had to chill because he was doing too much. And so I feel like this is one of the most brilliant written scripts, because I feel like Lin-Manuel put a lot of himself in Alexander, because he saw him, this is not a true accurate description of Alexander Hamilton, but in his story, it's his version, and he had to put some of his insecurities in Alexander, and we see that. And I think when we are like, well, Alexander wasn't too. So I feel like it worked because there's a balance, like, because it wouldn't make sense if Alexander was the most, best singer. That would have been too much. That would have been a little too much. The fact that, even his title song, Alexander Hamilton, is one of the weakest songs in the play, in my opinion, but it's such a strong standard song because, it repeats throughout the song. We know the tone, we know that song, even though lyrically it's not the best song. And so it was written like that because, it's kind of like the fanfare for this character. It's like it's putting his place musically in that scene. And so I'm like, brilliance. Like, I would have never thought of it like that. And so when we talk about Lin-Manuel, I feel like he did what he had to do in certain ways, because I think as a writer and as a performer, you said how he came from In the Heights, how that was his first baby, because it was mostly a Puerto Rican play. And so, yeah, he that was like him on that side. Alexander is like a part of that, it still had that New York feeling about it, but we're in 1776, and he really had to play on not only history, but then just balancing everyone's talent and skills. And I was just reading how he was finding it with Renee and being Angelica, what Renee had to do to become Angelica, and what she had, like, to get that role, and how she even won that award. Like, they were very, very particular in choosing the people for the roles, and it was like perfect casting. Because even when it came down to Anthony Ramos, he played two characters. He played John Lawrence, which was like his best friend, and then he played Philip, which was his son. To me, it made sense because seeing how Lin-Manuel's Hamilton and then Anthony Ramos's Philip, they had like a weird father-son chemistry, even off stage, and seeing it in the scene, it made sense to me. Like, it's just little things like that where casting and everything made sense. So I agree what you're saying, but like, that's also what I want to put on your mind of why it was the way it
Yeah,
was.
I can appreciate that. I mean, the other thing to consider is that, like, my experience here is so tainted because I did not know very much about the show.
Right.
And I thought, oh, great. The first time I'll see it, I'll get to see Lin-Manuel in the lead role, because so many people who saw the show didn't have that experience.
Mm-hmm.
And part of me thought, oh, this is good that I didn't like sell a kidney so that I could go see the show in the theater, because now I get to see Lin-Manuel. So, you know what I mean? Like, I put those expectations onto it, not knowing the limitations of his range, I guess, to put it.
I think another cool piece I got from it, I also was like super big into like wanting to see it. I got like a Hamilton book of like the songs, and like I get the one there's like little handwritings next to the margins of like what he wanted the songs to be. But what I got from him being in the lead role and Alexander Hamilton as like the play itself was that Alexander Hamilton was famous because of who was around him.
Mm-hmm.
Like him by him, like you can do a story on George Washington by himself because he's a big role character. You can do a story about Thomas Jefferson by himself. He's another big character. But as far as Alexander Hamilton goes, his story doesn't even get interesting until he meets these people. It's like, I feel like in terms of looking at Lin-Manuel Miranda as a character and then the play itself, him by himself singing at the White House when he first did like, hey, I'm doing this play on, you know, Hamilton, him singing it was like, oh, that's a cute little thing you're doing. But then having, you know, bring together this band of amazing singers and dancers, like, oh, this is a full production. Like they carry the show. I feel like him being in the lead gave you a chance to see great. It's him standing on stage, but fully getting the ensemble cast that's like the bigger picture. Like you focus more on them than on him at times. Like even on the songs where it's just him singing, it's like him singing, and then Aaron Burr comes like, oh, look, it's Aaron Burr singing, and they have the exact same thing, but it's like, oh, this thing is more important because like Aaron Burr's attached to it. Oh, this thing's important because like, you know, a scout is just attached to it. I feel like in terms of Lin-Manuel Miranda, he's very much aware of what is like what he brings to like, you know, Broadway, and like even with like In the Heights, like he definitely had more of like a in the background character because you had Usnavi in front and everything like that. But even with this play, like even though it's about Alexander Hamilton, it's about the people that are around him that make him who he is. Even like the narrative story being, you know, Aaron Burr led, then Elizabeth Schuyler led. I think it's like a very, you know, it's an interesting way of seeing like, oh, you're the lead, but like, are you really the lead? Because like Raymond said, like even when I went to see it in like, you know, in SF, I wasn't attached to Hamilton that much either. I was more attached to who's George Washington this time. Like I was more attached to that. I wasn't attached to who Hamilton is at all.
Really?
I
love that character or that actor. Sorry, Russell, go ahead.
No, it's just a very quick side question because I want to get other people's opinion on this. It's small. So Daveed Diggs comes out in the second half as Thomas Jefferson. Is he supposed to be Prince? Is he supposed to?
Yeah.
Yes.
There was the purple suit all about. He's Prince. Yes. The purple suit is like.
I just wanted to make sure. I mean, it would be a crazy coincidence if he came out prancing like that in a purple velvet suit with a ruffled shirt, and it wasn't an homage to Prince. That was my first read. I was like, this is genius, and I love it. I just wanted to make sure that other
he was all like
the prancing was so Prince.
There's to me, I see two layers on it of he was gone for a long time, so he missed everyone jump on the hip hop train, and he comes back like behind in music. And then on the second layer, if there is any founding father that is Prince, it's definitely Thomas Jefferson.
Definitely.
He was all about loving everybody.
There were a lot of references like that because he was coming back. He's like, oh, I guess I missed the 80s or something like that. You know what I mean? It was like, oh, yeah, you are. You're stuck in the 80s. I thought that was a brilliant. I mean, there's so many like brilliant touches like that, but that one I was like, wait a minute, that's Prince. Is Daveed Diggs coming out like Prince?
That's my homie.
That has to be his favorite song, and that one of his favorite songs in that play.
Yeah. I do have another kind of big existential question here. I don't know if other people are going to share this read, but as I mentioned, I love musical theater very much. I'm very invested in musical theater. I care about it. I think about it. I talk about it. I also love hip hop very much. So I think about hip hop and I talk about hip hop a lot. And my initial read when I heard about this and when I just heard songs, some of the actual songs before I saw the show, was this feels a little bit, this was my kind of like 90s teenager like response. This feels a little bit like those movies where like the cool teacher comes to the hood and is like, I'm going to teach you American history, you know, but I'm going to do it in hip hop. And then he's like, you know, what rhymes with 1776? And do you know what I mean? Like it had a little bit of a departure from what my very like orthodox understanding of what hip hop is. And there was there were aspects of it, and I'm only saying this for the sake of conversation. Please don't come for me. There were aspects of it that felt, the only word I can think to describe it is a little corny. Do you know what I mean? I know that. Well, Broadway's corny. It's supposed to be corny. I get that, right? But when you blend these things, it's like a different kind of corny a little bit. You know what I mean? And I would wonder, like, I'm curious if anybody else has that response.
Min did.
For clarification, is corny a set of judgment where you're saying it's good or bad? Is it on that scale of good and bad?
Yeah, I think it is a value judgment. Like I would say like campy is not a value judgment. Campy is just like, oh, that's what it is, kind of like what Broadway is.
To you, corny is like on the bad side?
It was hard for me at times. Yeah, it was hard for me because it was corny in a bad way.
Someone else would like to start.
I'm going to pass it to Amy because she didn't get a chance to say
that.
That's true.
What's
I'm not
funny-
following that comment.
Well, I'll
Oh
jump
my
in. I'll
God! What
do
am
it
I, a
then.
hot potato?
Yes.
I'll say this.
You're very
I'll say
controversial,
this.
Russell. I'm
I
sorry.
know
I'm down.
on Saturday Night Live, Lin-Manuel Miranda did a skit where he was like the white guy doing hip hop in class to like make fun of like, hey, I'm gonna do you guys know about the first hip hop artist, Shakespeare? And it was just like
Yes.
him playing on that. But I also think that to the other side of that, I think Lin-Manuel as a character, if this was his first play, I would fully, have those vibes. But, seeing how he's done In the Heights, he's done a play fully on, I think it's called, he did a play on a case in Florida where they were having undercover cops have kids sell them weed and get them arrested. He has like a whole, I think his portfolio of plays about POCs in general, or Black and brown people, definitely give him a little more street cred to like do this play. If it had been like Brockheimer or someone who did Cats, I'd be like, oh, this is definitely like a cash grab.
Right.
But
I don't
because,
have those thoughts. I don't question like his motivations or his loyalty or passion or affinity for hip hop or where he's coming from. Or
Because that man grew up in literally the home of
Yeah.
hip hop. Like he is
So I
from
don't
the home
question
of
that.
hip hop.
I'm not saying like, oh, it's not in his blood. What I mean is like the actual subject matter, right? Like you're taking like American history, which is loaded in its own way, you know what I mean? But and quote unquote educational, and using hip hop as a vehicle for that. It just felt.
Oh,
Kat,
no.
I see a hand, Kat. I see a hand.
So my question to that is, what do you think about some stuff on Sesame Street, and what do you think about Schoolhouse Rock?
Schoolhouse Rock, I think I was too young for. Is that possible? Aren't you
No,
younger than me?
you can't. I was
too young for
I'm
that.
younger than you, and I'm a Schoolhouse Rock kid,
I mean, I know what it is,
born and raised, I guess. if
but
that
it's
makes
definitely
sense.
not in my veins. But like, yeah, okay.
Or Sesame Street.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Sesame is for children, and Hamilton,
But
like,
you have hip hop,
It's
you
for all
have
ages.
education context, and it's presented in a way where children or people who don't know this stuff is almost in a way, kind of you say corny, but it gets their mind, kind of like how you're just using music as a learning tool. Now, I will not say Hamilton is hella accurate, because it's not. It just makes you want to go out and read more about the character, which is what I think Lin-Manuel wanted you to do. I feel like with any type of adaptation, it's not going to be completely real unless you go read about it, which I like. But as far as like presented in a way where, yeah, it's Broadway, it's going to be over dramatic, but kind of like in your way, I'm just curious to see like, well, if you think that is, then I'm like, well, how do you, because I mean, as an educator, I use a lot of music inspired things from different genres. I have rock and roll things to teach kids ABCs. I have hip hop stuff to teach them about their manners, and it's all corny across the board, but I like it because I think it's really entertaining and I understand kids' taste, but at the same time, it's like,
well,
in
how old are the kids that you're teaching?
Elementary.
Would you try that in a high school?
Not the
What's
same
crazy
context.
is Lin-Manuel Miranda, when the play was playing in New York, they often would bus in kids from public high schools to see the Broadway play and then do a Q&A afterwards. And they said they had a lot of kids who actually enjoyed it. They had a lot of questions. They also liked the fact that they got to see a play that had cursing in it. And like the actors would fully hold like a Q&A with just this high school. And like they talked about how like awesome it was to go from where they were to PS 115 to like
Right.
Broadway and have a show where only they were the ones who got to see it. It's great.
I think with the nature of what this play is, it's impossible to avoid a little bit of that corniness, because it is quite literally like you're saying, a history lesson written in a hip hop like jazz show, or hip hop R&B.
Right.
I feel like it's impossible to avoid all of it. Bill, we all go back and watch Bill Nye the Science Guy now, and we're all like, yeah, this was kind of corny. But like,
like it.
Definitely the rest of that content, I feel like the rest of that content still holds up. There is another point that I wanted to make on this topic that has now left my head, and so I'm just narrating, hoping that I can remember it. But that's
It's a
probably
vamp.
not.
It's a vamp.
You'll get there. You'll get
Meanwhile,
there.
on top of Raymond's
You'll get there. You'll get there.
Meanwhile, when Raymond's
I believe you,
campus.
Meanwhile, 12 minutes later. But I think I hear what you're saying, and that's honestly why I liked it more, me personally, because I came out of it when I went to go see it. Like, that was quite possibly the nerdiest thing I have ever seen in my entire life.
Right.
Like, it was just straight, like, a nerd wrote this, dozens of nerds play in it, and it's just 2.5 hours of light history lesson in song and dance, and like, it's just perfect. So I liked it more because of that. I think all the hip hop references, all the
New York references too.
all the New York references, all the little Prince things, little stuff like that I'm just like, this is just the nerdiest thing in existence.
There was some good referential stuff. Like I think I went back and forth on the 10 crack commandments, 10 dual commandments thing.
Yeah.
For a lot of different reasons, and so many Mob Deep lines show. Like, how many times somebody can say, "I'm only 19, but my mind is older." You know what I mean? Like, if you really are a nerd about hip hop, you're like, "Ooh, that's Mob Deep." Ooh. But I was also like, "Wait, are we only doing Mob Deep, Biggie, and Grandmaster Flash? Because those are the only 3 people, but you heard several references for all 3 of them, which to me was like, that's a little bit like, that's like the JV squad of hip hop. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Right.
I think there's an argument for the whole thing being a Dr. Dre reference now that you've put it that way.
Oh man.
And then, because that's a great analogy for Lin-Manuel Miranda in this movie.
Like, we didn't need to hear Dre's voice on Chronic 2000 at all. Like, you could have just put another like Snoop verse in there. That would have been fine.
There's also just the idea of like these rap structures. There's too many cipher songs. I love the cipher songs.
I love the cipher songs.
Yorktown is probably my favorite song in the whole thing because it's basically just a cipher. And then you have your Destiny Child influence. You have your...
Wait, which one is the Destiny Child influence?
The Skylar Sister.
Skylar Sisters.
Come on, Russell.
Oh
Come on.
What do you want me to do? Pretend like I know and then not learn anything?
No, let the man be ignorant sometimes. It's okay. Everyone does.
Okay, you're right, Raymond. You're right.
Did we just teach him? What else am I... There was another good
the
one.
Battles. The battles were good.
Like, the battles were. Oh yeah, the rap battles were good.
I thought that was well. I mean, for the context, it makes sense, right? They're like debating on the floor, and to have it situated as a battle, I thought like that was actually well done. That was like
really feel
hip hop
like
well employed in the show.
That needs to happen in real life. Honestly, I'm like, let's stop with this. Let's just have a rap battle.
Mitch McConnell versus Kamala Harris.
And
Let's
go.
That'd be kind of fun.
I mean. Let's do
it. Would you? It would be, you would be watching these bad. This is where we really get to the corny word. You want to watch the old white guy come up with a silly rap about his racist policies. I don't know if that's what you want to watch.
It would be a good meme at the very least.
And it will allow politicians to kind of rip into each other, because you know how they'd be doing that. They'd be like, let's get away from that. Like, no, I need to see more people ripping to other people to show like you're dead ass wrong and you're a piece of trash. Go. And I'll be like,
Parliament of United Kingdom does that all the time, and it's really fantastic.
And we don't get a chance to see that though.
We should have never broken away from the UK. See, that's the lesson here.
That's the lesson.
King George was right. Are you saying King George was right? I'm through.
We'll be big. We'll be big. I'm glad that we mentioned the rap battle, because I think that's a good example of kind of what I'm saying a little bit about the corniness. Like, the form should match the content, right? So if you're having a debate about how you want to structure the government, that's a good time to use hip hop because it's a rap battle. But if Alexander Hamilton is trying to decide whether to support Thomas Jefferson or Aaron Burr, he doesn't need to say, the people need to make a choice. They need to hear my voice. It's like that really does sound like the corny teacher at that point. If he's standing on the balcony and like also, can we just say there were some very elemental rhyme structures in there? Like,
and that one
on a page, you'd be like, bro, this is trash.
That one I let pass because of he wanted this to be an all ages thing. So like, you kind of have to you gotta dumb it down a little bit so that it can impact everybody on in some way.
Right.
Like I remember just having to sit up from Alexander Hamilton to Aaron Burr in between those two songs. I remember being in my seat like, all right, yeah, this is hype. And then as soon as they started talking fast and Aaron Burr, I was like, oh wait, hold on, I need to listen. Like,
Yeah.
and it would have helped to have closed captioning in real life, but
Right?
like
That would have been
I
nice.
had to.
Right.
But like I just had to sit up and like, okay, I gotta listen to everything they're saying. Like this is insane. And so it helped to have some slower, basic elemental rhymes to like,
Right.
so I can still keep up with the storytelling side of things.
That's a fair point. I agree. If they were doing like insane multi-syllabic rhyme structures, like we wouldn't know what they were saying.
Yeah,
Which
if
is like
the
every,
like
any
David
album you
Diggs,
listen to. How many
David
of
Diggs
those
and Guns
lyrics
and Chips was hype. Like he's did a better,
Yeah.
like and it just like, okay,
And
this is
that
great.
French accent too.
Yeah, I don't know
was
how he
like,
did that. But yes, if that was every song, we'd have had a problem.
I'd be like, this is a concert. This is not a show. You tricked me, you know? I like to do a shout out to the guy who played Hercules Mulligan because, you know,
Yes.
he sounded like Biggie on the soundtrack, but actually seeing his presence and the way he was moving, like he's a big dude, but the way he be, I was hyped for him, and it made me really enjoy him more. And I really love his lyrics.
right there.
Oh,
It's
really?
one of my favorites for sure.
He's one of my
I'm a big
favorites.
Hercules Mulligan fan.
I
really appreciated him. Again, I did not know that people switched roles like between acts, right? So there was a lot of catching up for me to do in the second act. I was like, hold on a minute.
Yeah, I didn't know the first
I
time
figured it out though, you know.
Yeah.
But his was the most telling because in the beginning, if you remember, again, it's like a hip hop reference. Mulligan was like had a little bit of Shabba Ranks to him, like he was right. Which was incredible. I was like, wow, how did they find a guy who could like do a Shabba Ranks voice, but also is like a Broadway actor? And then in the second half, he turns into Madison and his just like poise and stage presence and voice control. I was like, wait a minute, this guy can do a Shabba Ranks impression and then turn around and be James Madison, this like incredibly, you know, dignified, measured actor. I love that guy. I really, I'm with you. I had a lot of appreciation for him. He did a fantastic job.
Yeah.
I mean, I think like one of the giveaways to like the dualities of the role is that like when they say, you know, we fought for him, we died for him. It's like we did fight for him, but we didn't say which side we were on in terms of fighting for him. So like we fought for him in terms of the war. But after the war was over, we fought for him to endorse this guy. So it definitely was like, you know, and then like we died for him. It definitely was interesting seeing like, oh, like all this comes true later in the play. And of course you see that his like John does die for him twice. Yeah, and you can see that Peggy becomes Miss Reynolds, and the second act of it is very interesting to watch that play out because all she wanted was attention, and then the second act she got all of it.
She got that attention.
She definitely got some attention.
She got that attention.
The TLC.
There you go.
Yeah. I think the last main thing that I had that I wanted to make sure we talked about at least quickly was King George in general, and like the praise for the character. There was a weird disconnect that I got in watching the play the first time, where like King George comes out, he sings this song, hilarious acting, hilarious, like even the guy who did it in SF, he nailed it.
Yeah.
He nailed that entire
amazing.
Jonathan Graff like look and everything.
Yeah, he was good.
But I also felt like at that point in the show, he got the most applause out of literally everything else that had come before it, which really I wasn't sure how I felt about it, and would like after I left the show in real life, just knowing the audience that I was like there, because I mean it was Broadway performance. The audience is always what the audience is, and so that's just how Broadway ends up being with the pricing and everything. So it just felt strange. It felt weird. I was like, is this because he's super incredibly funny, or is there an extra layer of like cheer that I think I'm hearing, but maybe am I making this up? Is this just me? It's hard to get that out of the film because I'm in my own house and just laughing at Jonathan Graff spitting because apparently that's a thing. But so I appreciated that role more, but I don't know if anyone else of the people that saw Hamilton in theaters, I'm curious if anyone had a similar feeling Not in theaters, in the
No,
theater.
in
The
theater.
theater.
Yeah.
Yes.
Marlin?
I think for me, what I definitely thought it was is like comfortability. Like, oh look, there's a familiar face, and like, oh look, he like gets the spotlight. Like, I feel like whenever he's on stage, he's by himself for like a majority of every time. Like, it's just him, and like, so it's like, oh, he's like there's one. I think it's like they're comfortable saying like, oh, it's the one white guy in the play, and two, oh look, he has a solo. And so I'm wondering if it's because of like, oh, this is solo, so he gets a bigger applause. It's just him. But I'm also like, there have been other solos in the play, and like you didn't get the same response. I don't think for me, I felt like it was a bigger applause. I definitely feel like he was more of like a jester. And then I feel like as a jester, you give him like,
He is
oh,
a
you did a
jester.
good job. You're a good jester. You did great. So I
Yeah.
feel like it was on par with like, oh, he's funny. Like, he's a funny man. Like, he gets a lot. Like, let's give him something. Like, he's so funny. So I feel like it was like a gesture of like, you keep being funny. You're great. Because whenever he came out, it was like to always like transition the mood to like, oh, that happened. And here's my little fun song I'm saying about it. Do my little cha-cha dance. And I'm also going to steal the scene by like not leaving. So like, I feel like even like, seeing the play live, when the actors came out to like resume the play because they've been on pause, they're like looking at him like, why are you still here? They're doing the song. He's recording like doing a little like white person shuffle. Like, you keep singing, you do great.
He's
But
like
even when like they're doing like the never gonna be president, he's like, never gonna be president. I'm never gonna be. Like, you didn't have to be there for this, but here he is, just like you never gonna be president, and just like, oh, okay, he's here to be like a dick and be funny. So I feel like he was getting applause for that. Which is like, okay, and also I feel like he also like, you have to applaud for me to leave. Like, I need this. Like, this is what I need. I need it when I arrive, and I need it when I leave. So I think it was that. I was like, yo, I'm here. Come on, bigger.
Because he's a king.
I'll go now. Exactly.
That's right. Mad king, but he's a king.
He's a mad king.
I think I agree with the jester thing. Like, that role is so isolated. Like, he doesn't interact with anybody. He's not really a character. You know what I mean? He's just a symbol. And he comes out as a symbol and is tyrannical, and it's also a very good song in my opinion. Like, like incredibly catchy, right? So easy to sing along with, and I've only ever seen Jonathan Groff's performance, but like that's incredible, right? So if you just come out and do one little thing, it is like somebody popping out, juggling for a few seconds, and then leaving. People like, hey, that was great, that was different. There isn't anything else in the show, I think, that's just purely like a joke song. You know what I mean? Like, there are lots of funny stuff that happens in the context of every song, but that one is like start to finish. Like, I am a sick tyrant, right? Basically an abusive husband / boyfriend, and I've made this wonderful sounding little song about what a tyrant I am. It's isolated. It kind of exists in a vacuum, and it is kind of like comic relief in a way.
He can't.
I'm so blue.
Right. It's and so I remember when I worked at one school and we were teaching Hamilton this was like a musical class, and we were like talking and analyzing the content, and we were saying how like that song is a love song. It's definitely in the range of a love pop song, but it's a toxic love song, because America is the one that's trying to break up, but he can't let go because it's like he's one of those, I've done everything for you, why are you trying to leave? And then it's like, okay, so you're leaving, well, I'm going to do this to you because you are not seeing that I'm the one. And then once that's done, he's like, oh, I'm going to be one of those petty exes and see how you're going to fail. And so again, when he's sitting on the side of the stage and he's just like, who gonna be president? Oh, he gonna be eaten alive. Or, oh, what's going on? Oh, like he's on the side of the stage reacting to it. Like, to me in my head, I'm thinking, I wonder if in history King George was just like, keep me abreast of what's happening across, the ocean, because he was probably just like, well, what are they doing? They said they were gonna start a country. We've been a country for over 1,000 years. How are they gonna do it? So I feel like it's almost like a reality TV moment to me where I don't know if the people I'm going by off the film, like when people were like enthusiastically like clapping for him, like again I'm thinking it is a jester. I think it's also part of his role as he's royalty. He's the only one in the show who's actual royalty, but even though we hate him, you still do the English thing of just But at the time, it's like, he's high and mighty, but then he's a joke himself, and then now he's a jester to us. It's like, yes,
He's
Flash,
also, I would say, I think
you're
it's
full.
important to note, he's the only unambiguous villain in the whole production. Like, there really is no villain, right? They're just like complicated people who have differences in opinions, and some are petty, but them all.
Versus man conflict.
Yeah, them all well enough to know that, like, well, this is why this person is doing that. He's the only person who is just like 100% villainous, right? And everybody always loves the villain in any show, right? It's like Heath Ledger's Joker. Like, who do we love? We love Heath Ledger's Joker. Like, whenever they're coming out with a new superhero movie, it's like, well, who's going to play the villain? That's the biggest question.
Right.
And people who are able to do those turns, those always get the most love. If you go to a Broadway show, whoever the bad guy is, they get the biggest applause.
Can't tell the good story without a good villain.
Exactly. So I think that's also part of it. Like, not only is it he's a jester, but he's like a jester villain, and in that way it's a brilliant piece of writing. Like, oh, how are we going to represent England, like the enemy, which really there weren't any British characters, there wasn't anything else about the resistance, no red coat bad guys, so like he's really just a symbol. I mean, there were people in red coats on stage with muskets, but you know what I mean, like not
there was no British characters but him.
Nobody that we
had our French character,
the guy who's reading the message at the beginning.
Yeah,
he was a loyalist. He was a loyalist. So he's like
a loyalist. Okay.
Yeah, he was like he was an American who was like.
As he was doing the accent, I always got the impression. But if he was okay,
that was my read. I don't know. I mean, just based on.
I thought he was British.
No, he was from the Continental Congress, something like that.
No, he mentioned the Congo. He said this is a message to the Continental Congress. But
anyway, go rewatch it.
He might have been. I could be wrong. He might have been, but they had to kind of untangle that. Like, obviously, there's already so much in this show. What is going to be our representation of the enemy? It's a show about a war, essentially, So let's bring in this symbol who's comedic, and he's the two-dimensional villain who's easy to laugh at. I think that's part of why he got so much love.
And it works. I love, like I said, I love that song. I love that every person I've seen do that role has done a great job. It's hilarious.
It's meaty.
And it's purposeful, and it's always a white guy.
Yeah.
Like, that's the one where, like, this has to be a white guy every single time.
I mean, it should, like, just based on it'd be
the role,
strange
it's
otherwise.
Like, it could be whatever, but him, like, no, it's gotta be a white guy.
King George, yeah. It should. That's just the. I think that's the point. I think as much as Hamilton tries to, like, bring the point of immigrants and slavery and a couple other things, like, to the forefront, that makes sense to me. That's going to be one of the few constants in that play, no matter where it goes. So I'm happy with it. I'm glad that everyone is getting to see it. I hope everyone watches it. This weird debate on, like, is it as good as everyone remembers it, or like there's a weird, like, the internet trying to have some sort of, like, don't love Hamilton, cancel Hamilton, or something. Right. I don't know what I'm seeing. I'm really curious what people are saying.
Talk about
what people are saying this, because
I think it's a mixture. I feel like folks aren't taking to heart that the play literally is a joke. It's like, like, everything we're doing, like, maybe like 45% of this information is accurate. Everything else literally we made up on the spot. If you do want to fully look at the history of our founding fathers, they're not great. They're not awesome. George Washington wore slave teeth. They're all just, like, terrible people. And I know that, like, one of the things they brought up is the fact that Alexander Hamilton married into the Schuyler family. The Schuyler family was one of the biggest slave-buying families in that region. He also did help them acquire more slaves through documentation they found with a signature on it. So there are definitely other sides of history to look at, which we definitely should always look at. But I feel like in terms of this play, they fully make sure, this is just a play. It's, like, fictitious for a good chunk of it. Like, we have, like, some, like, really, like, great level drops of information. Great. He made it the New York Post and the Wall Street. Like, that's Hamilton. He did that. But everything else is fake. And I don't think they want you to go away thinking, oh, you should fully idolize America more, be more about America. The whole point of the play is in two parts. One, how, like, they overthrew a tyrannical government because of what they were doing. Two, take advantage of, like, the opportunity you've been given. Don't throw away your shot. And three, like, you don't get to pick, like, how your story's played out, but you just gotta, write it yourself and do all you can. It isn't about being a patriot. I mean, literally, they, like, told Pence when he came to a show to, like, hey, like, you got to free people. You're like you're kind of you're the main antagonist right now, very much like King George, and he like left. So it's like they've been using their platform to fully like elevate a lot of issues that people have been like finding issues with. So you can hate on that, but don't hate on the play too much.
I don't remember. Was the Pence comment from the original cast?
Yep, it's from the original cast.
Okay.
Because
I just couldn't remember
Are
if
you
that was
sure?
his-
I feel like it was more recent than that.
I feel like
Are you sure?
I feel like he came to New York. City
it would
to
make
see it,
sense because the election was 2016. This film was filmed in 2016. It would make sense if it was the original
He
cast.
did it. He
Yeah.
did
The timeline
it
lines
in
up.
2000. I think he did it around 2017. It was like right after Trump got elected. I want to say it was the year 2017.
I will look it up.
I'm just curious.
It
I'll look
Kind of
it up.
raises
I don't know.
another
It was
thought.
it was 2016.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, it was 2016.
Yeah.
Mm.
This timeline question is something that was kind of bouncing around in my mind while I was watching it. Like this show was written and initially performed like when we were still in the Obama era. And
Right.
there was a lot of like post-racial optimism about the future of our country, right? And that's kind of all over this show. And it is a little bit different, I think, to watch it in 2020 now that sheen of optimism has the context has changed, right? It's not like, oh, this show's not good or not relevant anymore. It's just and dated isn't even really the right word, but you could tell, like, you know what I mean? You could tell that you're watching it in the Trump era and it was made in the Obama era. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That
Yes.
I think that piece, you know, especially, I mean, so many different conversations about, you know, Obama's presidency could be had, or whatever conversations we had about race around that time, like just the idea of like race blind casting, putting people of color in these roles, like, you know, having a black president, that a lot of that, those aspects of the show were kind of enabled in a lot of ways, I think, socially by Obama's presidency. And it's not like, oh, all that stuff's erased or went backward. But there was just like, there was a certain optimism, which I don't think was diluted or foolish at the time, that feels different now. Go ahead. I don't know what the hand signals are.
I'm saying 5. Well, it's actually 6 minutes. I was doing
Oh,
10
okay.
minutes,
You're
now 6 minutes.
Signaling at the director like, hey, how much time we got?
I don't want to talk over you, Russ. I'm trying to be polite.
I just want to say, Amy, did you have anything to say? Because you saw it on stage, then you saw it the movie, and I just wanted to hear what you had to say.
I think it was interesting seeing everything in more detail for me, because we were like on the far left side of the theater, but close up, so we could see things pretty clearly. But some things like when the king's on the side, I couldn't really see him that well.
Mm-hmm.
And now I could, so I was like, okay, so just more details really. And the only thing I really had to say was I loved the actor who was in SF. I also can't remember who played Burr, also Raymond, so maybe he just wasn't that good. But yeah, I really did like I think I prefer the SF actor who played him than what's his face. I don't know why. I just liked him a lot.
Wait, for Hamilton or Burr?
For Hamilton.
Oh,
He was a
Wow.
good Hamilton.
He was really good. I really liked him. He had a presence. I liked how he sang. I liked how he rapped. I liked everything. It was just very good. It was very all just synced up.
Aw.
Yeah, there are a lot of cool Hamiltons. I mean, I saw a skinny Hamilton, and I saw like a bigger Luther Vandross Hamilton, and I gotta say,
The Asian Hamilton in England, I was
they
like,
brought it, you know.
We got ours was kind of a Luther Vandross-y kind of Hamilton.
wait, what? Are you serious?
The fair skinned dude.
No, this guy was darker skinned.
Okay, yeah.
Uh,
Luther Vandross Hamilton.
He
I
was
want to
a
watch
little bigger.
this.
He was at least
many
if we
are
all
there?
if we all saw the same
There's
guy.
so many.
He was a
Mine
nice
was
looking.
tall and like medium build, not too
It
skinny.
was almost like if Marlon was Hamilton. Like
Yes. Okay, there we go.
Well,
you
there's
go.
your Halloween costume, Marlon.
Cute.
As long as
Um,
Raymond gets to be Thomas Jefferson and wear like a purple velvet suit, I'm down.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
I can see Raymond the cane coming down the stairs. Just what I miss.
Can't believe.
So does
I
that-
can't see that. I
Oh my
can't
God,
see
yes,
that.
I know.
Kat, does that mean you're Eliza? Where are we at with this?
Angelica was my favorite character.
Cat's Peggy.
Yeah. Oh, why? I feel like that's not a very nice thing to say. Am I reading that
Just
right?
be death.
Yeah,
I'd
you
rather
are.
just play the
That was the
death
joke.
part.
You're just
I'd
being a
rather be
dick.
death.
You're just being an asshole.
I'd just be
I
death.
wanted to make sure I got that right.
You're just being a dick.
I'll be dead.
Just being a dick. That's all.
But I will say, you guys, I am happy that this came out when it did. I feel like, people have different views on Independence Day, whether you celebrate it or not. And even though this is a fictional story about the founding fathers, I do enjoy this story because it instills in a type of, again, you quoted in the play, immigrants, they get the job done. I feel like the story, you know, is told with Black and people of color in a way to show, again, you know, we made the story to reference American history, but in time it is a reflection of who actually made American history, who kind of just built America again. I kind of view it like that. And so, you know, with Independence Day, I do find myself thinking like, this might be a tradition for me around the 4th of July to watch this, because it's like the perfect thing to kind of watch. I don't know any other
I don't think there is any
revolutionary
other
thing.
revolutionary thing
I
worth
know
watching.
that's that Mel Gibson movie.
No, because that's about loyalists. That one is
Right,
about loyalists.
so then
Inaccurate.
Hamilton.
Even a little bit.
Right. So watch
What about
Hamilton.
Independence Day?
That
Welcome to Earth.
is there time travel in that?
You can watch that right after Hamilton. So you get your aliens.
Then your Afrofuturism.
Yeah.
Right. You're absolutely right.
Just don't watch the second one because that was trash.
Don't watch the second one.
I agree.
So I watched that completely in Spanish because I was stuck on the plane. I thought it was better in Spanish. That was just me.
All the languages.
Right. So yeah, I feel like this is going to be a tradition of mine of watching it. I mean, I'll probably watch it regardless of any time of the year, but definitely making time to kind of making it like, oh, it's that time we have to watch, you guys, and watch it, you know, and kind of understand from our ancestors and, you know, what they had to go through to build this country. It's pretty tragic, but, you know, it also instilled hope, because if it wasn't for them, we would not be here. So that's how I kind of see with Hamilton, with who lives, who dies, who tells your story. Yeah, we know about Hamilton, but the people around Hamilton who did a lot, the people, especially like the women and the people who actually did fight for slavery, you know, if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't have all the great stuff we have today. And now I'm realizing time is up. That is perfectly fine. Thank you guys for coming together and talking about all our wonderful topics today. Shout out to Amy, Ray, Marlin, and especially Russell. Thank you for dropping by and hanging out with us.
Literally dropping in.
Thanks for having me. This is great.
Literally dropping in. Thank you to our listeners and fans. Again, you can find us on our social media on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. I think I said that all. Yeah, I did. And you know, you guys keep it cool out there. Still stay
Cats and kittens.
cool cats and kittens. We're bringing that back, I guess. So for everyone else, thank you for listening to our show. Make sure to check out Hamilton if you're interested. Let us know in comments or whatnot. What are your thoughts about it? But until then, you know, stay home, stay safe, and geek on.